Here he is, Barry Hall, the Sydney Swans Western Bulldog and St Kilda superstar, joins us on this Friday, as he does every Friday. Welcome, Barry.
Good morning, fellas.
Holly, how are you, mate?
We're all fired up in here. It's a bit tense.
Yeah,
Everything all right?
Yeah, good as gold.
Yeah, no, Mick very strong in his view. Now, what's your view on this flagging by the AFL that we did discuss this between 7 and 7:30 about Australia sending an entirely Indigenous team, well, made up of Indigenous footballers, to Ireland to play the Irish in a two-test series which will be happening on the 19th and 26th of October?
Well, Mick's voiced my views, exactly. I was driving in the car listening to you guys and I thought, well, that's racism, isn't it? That's what we want to stamp out of our game and what we've been trying to avoid for such a long time, and to flag that and say that we're going to maybe have one of those sides, it's it's a bit hypocritical.
We've tried to think about what the AFL would be thinking in doing this. Have you got any thoughts on that? Or?
Well, I understand that it's a sensitive issue and they want to look after the Indigenous people and maybe to have a representative side, that wouldn't be too bad, but not to represent Australia and take out all different races of people. I think that's, as we spoke about before, that is racism. So I think in terms of what the AFL is trying to do, I can understand it, but it's a very sensitive issue and it's pretty hard to pull something off like that.
The other point too, how do I say this? We have got a fantastic round coming up, and it's called the Indigenous round. I think it's round 9. We saw a fantastic promotion, an advertising campaign that's very strong. So I reckon the AFL in their wisdom are doing a magnificent job to bring, one, them into the game, and two, when they're in the game, to make sure they give them every welfare opportunity to stay in the game for as long as they can and then turn some individuals' lives around. But to go to this extent, I think it's a backward step.
All right, let's move on because lots of issues in football. Barry, we spoke last Friday about the relative confusion about marking contests. Well, it's just got completely out of control. Now, you saw the explanation that Jeff Geishan gave on Fox Footy about the push and the half push and the full push and the comments from the respective coaches about the fact that Chris Scott and Nathan Buckley spoke openly about how they were confused and just wanting to know how to even coach their players. What have you made of it all?
Oh, look, unfortunately I've seen the explanation from Geishan. It was just ridiculous, wasn't it? I think it just made the whole situation more confusing and made the situation worse than what it already was. I'm more confused. I feel for the players. I really feel for the players.
And the umpires.
Yeah, exactly. They're getting told to adjudicate how they're adjudicating now, and it's tough for them. Look, the whole thing is a bit of a farce. It's laughable at the moment. It really is. It's I think we just need to clean up. Sometimes we just overthink and overanalyze stuff.
That is a really good point, because this situation of distinguishing between a full push and a half push is just, it's getting down to the nth degree. And the umpires, at the end of it, need to just, their brain must be fried with all this sort of stuff. They need to step back from that and continue to do what umpires have done for a long time and try and have a feel for the game. So if there's an obvious push out, then okay, you pay it. If it's not, you don't. But to try and psycho and microanalyse whether he extended his arm in the push or whether it was a half push or what happens if it's, as Nathan Buckley said, what happens if it's an 80% push? It's getting too micro and it must be going around. They can't sleep at night, the umpires, trying to work out what to pay and what not to pay.
I just want to see the AFL or the Rules Committee come out one day and say, look, we've got this wrong. We're going to pull back on this rule. That'll never happen, will it? It'll never happen.
Well, the irony of it is, Barry, that the rule's been there since Adam was a pup.
Yeah.
But it just seems that it's being microanalysed this year, and there's been so many more free kicks paid for it, and there's obviously been a focus on it. But we got away with a long time in the Dunstall, Lockett, and even in your early days. Mm-hmm. It was all part of the tussle and the show of strength on a one-on-one contest.
Don't forget Wayne Carey too. He was one of the best body forwards in the competition. And you'd know that firsthand, Chris.
But wasn't that good? But the rule was the same then as it is now in the way it's written.
And sorry to jump ship a little bit, but the sliding rule was an overreaction.
Yep.
that's an absolutely ridiculous rule. I'd love them to take away too. I think, a couple of blokes break their legs.
We jumped the shadows there.
Purely accidental. And we change the rule. So if you're desperate for the ball and you hit someone below the knee, it's a free kick against. That is absolutely ridiculous. I'd just love to see him come out and say, and everyone would understand and probably applaud it, that this isn't working, we're going to pull back on this rule. I reckon everyone will love it.
And while we're talking about rules that should be abolished, the one that I've been on the high horse ever since it was introduced, and my mind has not changed, is relating to marking contest, is the hand in the back rule. Mm-hmm. Because... And you talk about going against the spirit of the game with respect to the sliding rule. Well, this epitomises going against the spirit of the game, because what we're saying, at the risk of repeating myself, is that we can put a hand on an opponent's back in a marking contest, apply absolutely no pressure. So not a push, we don't have to apply any pressure, and that is a free kick against. That is a joke. And while we're talking about abolishing rules, we should pull back on that one as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's ridiculous. If that hasn't impacted the marking contest at all, just because your hand's resting on the back, it's more of a feeler. It's more of a distance thing. It's like a boxer with a jab.
Yeah.
Sometimes they throw it without even the intent of hitting a guy. They're just getting distance.
Range.
They're getting range.
Mundine does
Same
that.
thing.
Mundine does that all the time. His left arm is out, just getting the range without even really making contact a lot of times.
So we've come up with 3 rules in 5 minutes. Do we want to keep going? Or not?
No, we might just leave it there, I think. All right, Barry, getting and looking forward to this round. Let's talk some footy, because there's been lots of issues happening off the field. But what a night tonight. Essendon versus Geelong, unbeaten, the clash of the Titans. Essendon do have the off-field saga that they've seen at this stage to be able to just block out of their mind. And in fact, it's worked as a real positive for them. How do you see the game unfolding tonight?
Oh, look, I've got no doubt that the off-field stuff for Essendon has galvanised the group. There's no doubt about that. They get in tight situations and they respond. So I reckon from their point of view, although they'll be unhappy that that's happened, in terms of a team and camaraderie and being a tight group, that's certainly brought them together. Look, statistically, Essendon, they're in the top 3 of every category you can look at in terms of stats that are important. Absolutely flying at the moment. The funny one for me is, and I was going to speak about stats and how important they are, Geelong don't rate very well in terms of stats, and we speak about clearances and hardball gets and all that sort of thing, which are, we put a lot of emphasis on that, how important it is. They aren't ranked very well at all. But they just keep winning games. So how important are stats to Geelong? They're not very important at all. When they do win clearances, they score from it. So every clearance they win, they score from it, they use it. But I think Geelong throw the book out of the stats, and purely footy smarts. The stat sheet's certainly not important to Geelong at all, but, Essendon are flying at the moment. I'm looking, it's pretty hard to beat Essendon at the moment. The way their pressure is off the ball as well, they're doing a lot right.
I was really surprised they didn't bring Ryder back into this team. And the reason why I say that, if Bell Chambers goes down with Hill going on his wedding to France, what happens with the ruck stocks? Hawley, his emergency, I just think he has to come into the team tonight. There might be someone in that 22 that's named that has got a question mark over them. A little bit of ducks and drakes might be played. But I just can't see the logic as to why Paddy Ryder, after serving his suspension, he's not injured.
Yep.
He was suspended, so he would have had a lot of hard work to be done through his legs and his running power to be introduced into this game tonight, because I reckon he can get a distinct advantage against a West or the other ruckman for Geelong, Blitzarves.
Well, maybe internally it's a bit of a message sent, maybe, because I watched Essendon early days, and I rated him as one of the top 3 most important players in the Essendon outfit. If he's up and going, he makes a massive difference to that side. So maybe it's an internal thing, because I agree. I think he should be in the side. They need him.
So if Bell Chambers goes down, who rucks? Gumbleton?
Yeah, well, that's the issue, isn't it?
Do they use Nathan Lovett-Murray as an outside jumper? Because we know he can jump.
Yeah, they have done it before.
They've done it before.
Brief minutes.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't use Carlisle. You'd keep in his key back post, surely. Fletcher, you wouldn't use him.
No.
We know Hardingham can jump, but he's probably required at that end of the ground also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Oh,
a
look,
funny one.
the more we talk about it, and we touched on this earlier, Barry, but the more we talk about it and think about it, surely Ryder just comes in. It's just a ploy. It's just a.
Is it mind games? Is it? You reckon?
Well, I don't know. I don't think there's any
We can't
merit
come
in
up
doing
with
that,
a
to be honest. Leave it.
unless something happened behind the scenes that we're not
That's what-
aware of,
yeah, Hawley's alluding
which
to.
you mentioned. I mean, maybe you're right, Barry. I mean, maybe that is an issue. So, anyway, we'll wait and see. Who do you think might win?
I reckon Essendon are going too well in too many areas, and it's the pressure off the ball that's really impressed me. Essendon for me.
All right, we'll get to a break and come back and look at some other games, some actual cracking games, including a grand final rematch of last year with Barry Hall after this. It's 14-8.
This is RSN Breakfast. Talk